All right, and welcome in once again, sports fans, beer fans, all fans. I don't know. I guess I'm just used to saying sports fans for everything.
For the radio.
But, yeah, it's fine.
Which you've started back up.
Yeah.
Sports are in full swing.
Yep. It's that time of year where things are definitely happening. I don't do much baseball, so that's, I love doing baseball, but I just don't do much, timing wise and what time it is and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it's we're heavily into now volleyball and football and everything else, for the fall sports season. And the juniors team that I cover is they start I think next Friday.
Ooh, nice.
So hockey is already on the docket. So
he's going.
Oh,
Outlaws.
It just never stops. So, but it's fun. It's a good time. It's hard to complain having fun.
No,
my dad used to say it's hard to beat fun for a good time.
That's right.
And by my method, it totally works out.
And you get paid while you're having fun.
Exactly.
So it's not even work.
And sometimes, depending on the game, it's more so a matter of not only getting paid, but I get entrance and VIP. I don't know if VIP is the right way to put it, but I have I've done games at the floor of the Target Center. I've done games at the Metrodome back in the day. I haven't been to US Bank for a game just yet, but you get into press areas. I did a hockey tournament at the X, which that one it's nice. It was really cool, and I was in a booth right next to Mark Parrish, and
cool.
I remember who it was. It was Jim Erickson, I think was. I don't think Jim was calling that game though. I think it was somebody else that was calling that game that I didn't know. But I've gotten to know Jim Erickson a little bit, pretty good if you're familiar with him. Voice of SCSU hockey, and he does the state boys and girls hockey tournaments. Great guy, super nice guy. He's actually from Ram.
Really?
Yeah, great. Grew up in
nice.
here. Started at WCMP. Same, worked at KBEK.
Nice.
Did all the things. But he's a great voice, great dude, super nice guy to talk to. Every time he'll recognize me before I see him. More often than not when I see him. So he's a lot of fun to be able to chat with. So a lot of fun. But if you broadcast hockey at the X, you're on the 11th deck, looking straight down. It's not exactly the greatest of viewpoints ever. But it's still fun.
But you're still there having a good time.
Yeah, you get into kind of VIP area, and so yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's still cool. It's still fun to be able to do that. So yeah, it's we're into full swing with everything going on, and it's only going to get busier from here because winter sports gets even crazier. Girls and boys basketball, girls and boys hockey, and every so often wrestling, and just everything. This, that, and the other thing. It's a lot of fun.
Busiest time of the year.
A lot of fun though. It's a good time. So, but that's enough about me. That's that's back into the swing of that. But yeah, that's why I'm used to saying welcome in sports fans. But yeah, welcome in beer fans. Beer is kind of what we're doing here. So, once again, Two Guys in Beer podcast, as you can see by the beautiful studio, and again the beautiful table. Just I really like this table. I know that it was. You'll have to listen to the other episode. Just the pain in the absolute pain in the ass that it was to be able to create. But I appreciate the work that you have put in towards really all the work that you put in towards all this. I just show up and drink beer. I have the good gig on the side. Yeah. So, but it's what happens when you have a BS and BS, right?
Yeah, that's what you're good at.
Or something like that. So today we're talking about we're going back to California. A nice place to be. We're not quite winter here. California knows how to party.
Yeah.
Or they just have beer, But they do have a lot of beer. There's a lot of beer out there.
We should probably just stick with drinking beer.
That's true. Yeah. I think we learned that on the karaoke. But we're just having a good time.
Yeah.
So, but that's that's the key here. So what we got on deck today is Pizza Port is what it is. Pizza Port Brewing, and we'll get into the reason for the name here in a little bit. We have a double India Pale Ale. So this one's going to be a little bit more potent, I guess, to a certain extent. It does list it as an 8%er, but the double India Pale Ale called Mongo, which initially I was like, mango? Because I always get teased, I don't know what it was, years ago that, it was like a cruise or something like that or whatever, and they decided that I just loved mangoes, which I like mangoes, but I don't know that I've really had mangoes before that too much. And so, it just became kind of a thing that they would, heckle me or, tease me. Everything is mango now. But, when you say it enough times, mango, Well, this one is actually Mongo. So, that's what it says on the thing. So I thought it was kind of fun, and it fit for me. But it's a double IPA, so it fit for me even better.
Mongo sounds big and robust, don't you think? That's like a name of like a big, robust beer. Hence a double IPA.
There we go. Wasn't that the name of the guy on, was it Blazing Saddles?
Yeah, I've never actually watched that movie. Don't shoot me.
I'll have to... I only watched it a handful of years ago for the first time, so if they're going to shoot you, they're going to shoot me too. So I think that it might have been something like that. I don't know. I would Google it, but it's okay. We'll let that one slide. For now, we will just go ahead and live without the knowledge. I know it's bizarre in this world that we live now, but for now, we will just live without the knowledge. If you know the answer, go ahead and put it in the comments below. Go ahead and tell us what you think about that. So, but nonetheless, Pizza Port Brewing. This is out of Oceanside, I believe. Carlsbad, kind of by Oceanside.
I love the name of that city.
Carlsbad, California.
Carlsbad.
Isn't there a canyon there too?
I think there's like a Carlsbad Canyon or something.
Sounds like there would be at least. So
something about it sounds sinister. Carlsbad.
I like it. Well. Let's see here. Good beer brings good cheer.
Yep, it sure does.
So, without further ado, let's get some good cheer going.
Let's get it cracking.
It's like the best part. It's a good crisp sound.
I'm cheered already.
I can smell the hops already.
It is super hoppy smell right off the bat.
Definitely a double. Definitely hop forward, but I do get some maltiness. It kind of gets in there as well. Trying to see if there's anything else. It just has kind of the, seascape, if you will, of a boat and some surfers and some people kind of watching some surfing. It's kind of boat.
It's pretty crisp. I think it's a light, crisp double IPA.
Yeah.
It's not thick and heavy. To go along with the hoppiness that we talked about already. The malt that's in there, you can taste that, but it's definitely light and crisp as well.
It's very good. So Pizza Port, to kind of get into the background, the history of this, so currently we'll kind of Tarantino it. We'll talk a little bit about current, and then we'll flip and rewind it back.
Go backwards. Back to the future.
So it's a brew pub currently that has 5 locations in Southern California, Solano Beach, 2 in Carlsbad, 1 is downtown, and 1 is at Bresci Ranch, Ocean Beach, and San Clemente. So those are the locations that they have there. They actually had one in San Marcos as well, but it actually did well enough that it spun out of Pizza Port and became its own independent operation.
Oh, wow.
So it did well enough in the area that it's like, all right, well, Mom, Dad, I'm leaving the nest. I'm in charge now.
See ya.
There you go.
Nice.
It's noon. The Port Brewery Company Lost Abbey is what it's called. So they've received many different awards. Now we're back to the Pizza Port, including Small Brew Pub of the Year for 2003 and 2004 by the Great American Beer Festival, and then 6 different awards for its beers at the World Beer Cup. So had some success over the course of many different years.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like it.
Let's get over to the about here. It is devoted to total customer service satisfaction by providing the highest quality and best service humanly possible while having too much fun. I always love reading these, but they're kind of their own unique version of the same words,
right?
In a way, I guess. We take ultimate pride in our standards by offering completely unique dining and drinking experience. Our goal is only met if we make you happy and you have a great time every time. Good food and good beer bring good cheer. So the people behind it all are Gina and Vince Marsaglia, Marsaglia.
I think Vince works.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gina
Got
and
him.
Vince.
Fair enough. Okay. So these they're siblings, is who it is. Gina and Vince are siblings in their 20s in 1987. If we get in the Wayback Machine, they bought a struggling pizza venue. So that's part of where the Pizza Port comes in.
Cool.
So they bought this struggling pizza place in the sleepy coastal town of Solano Beach, just north of San Diego. And early on, Vince just took advantage of the free space to just dabble with some homebrewing. So it wasn't even built as a brewery initially. Of course, this is also in 87. Not a lot of breweries out there, not a lot of a thing. You know, he talked a little bit more about you get, into the 90s and, into the 2000s, late 90s, into the 2000s. That's when things kind of start picking up a little bit more. So, yeah, 87 is not exactly a high time for brewing.
That's the beginning for sure.
Yeah, but it's definitely, people are, I'm going to start dabbling in my own thing. I'm going to start, I'll do a little homebrew, like an episode that we had. They get started on the stove, you know, like that's what they're doing. I've done a little bit of that. Not very well, but that's fine. That's why I defer to people like Brandon or Vince and Gina.
You know what we haven't talked about for a little bit, and maybe we did way back in the day, but we might have to dig into that a little bit in an upcoming episode, is these microbreweries and breweries that started in the late 80s, early 90s. How did that even come about? Is it just the relaxation of laws and regulations that started microbreweries out, so people are more able to start brewing different types of beer and those type of things?
That's true. We do the history of a brewery, but we don't really do. I guess we haven't delved. I mean, a little bit we've delved into the history of brew making, but we haven't done, I guess, more of the current brew making. I guess what we've talked about is the doctrine of that killed a bunch of beers when we were doing, I believe it was Spaten. That was you were only allowed to have hops and beer and malt and whatever.
Yeah,
hops and
Those
beer.
3 ingredients.
Yeah,
hops
beer
and
is already that's what you're getting. But yeah, it was it was trying to unify
hops, malt, and water. I think
it was something like that.
The purity law, I believe.
Yeah. So I mean, we've talked about some of the larger historical things like that, but yeah, we should. We'll have to do that. That'll be a future episode. Stay tuned. Follow our social media platforms. It's getting to me already. I'm on the edge of my seat.
And we'll do some research on that and see why the craft beer industry boomed in the United States in the late 80s, early 90s, and definitely in the 2000s they popped up everywhere.
Absolutely.
So there has to have been a relax in regulation of something of some sort, because you wouldn't just suspect all these craft breweries just also just spring up out of nowhere.
Well, and so
people
many
have been
times
drinking beer forever, so it's not like it's a.
And so many times people talk about, 1987, they start, Vince starts dabbling with home brewing a little bit in the back part of the business that had some spare space. Well, that's great. I started dabbling in it because craft beer existed.
Right.
Like I had already had Killian's and I had tried some other stuff, and I'm like, this is different craft beer that people make, and this is more like cooking or baking or things like that. And that's kind of what, I'm like, all right, let's give that a shot. Like, I might be able to try this.
Then you can go to the store and buy a kit. They packaged everything in a kit for you. Oh, here you go. You want to brew an IPA? Here's their kit. You want to brew a lager? Here's the kit for that, Oh,
and there was an episode that we had probably, a month or two ago that, the gentleman that had a brewery ultimately didn't start as a brewery. He started as a brewery supply company. So he started as a retail business. But I can't imagine there was that much demand. I think he even questioned it during that episode that, how much demand is there for the equipment? I can't imagine, because at the time in 1987, how many beers are out there? I can't imagine that there's a real wide selection.
No.
Maybe additional ones just because there wasn't as wide of a distribution. But at the same time, you got Old Milwaukee that's going to have the Upper Midwest, things like that.
PBR. So I grew up around a lot of the bars.
PB Army ASAP.
Yeah. You didn't see a variety of beer. And you didn't see light beer. You didn't see craft beer. It was Budweiser, Miller Genuine Draft, Coors, Miller, maybe a High Life in there,
Yeah. Yep.
That was literally it. And then you'd have your off-brands like Old Milwaukee, which is Miller Genuine Draft without the name, which we learned when we toured the Miller Brewery some years ago. But there wasn't Schlitz, Schmidt. You know, it was just like 20 main beers, and that's all you would see. There wasn't craft beers. It wasn't Miller Lite. I mean, Miller Lite existed, but it wasn't like it is today, or any light beer is today.
Yeah, it's a much different deal. But yeah, I mean, I guess like I said, there's so much craft that's out there, and that's what kind of drew me to creating my own or making the kit and trying to see if I could do it. But what about PBR makes you think I could make this in my basement? And I'm not, I don't send me the hate mail. Like, I'm not trying to like dog on PBR necessarily, but just there wasn't a wide variety. So it's, you know, is the idea like, well, I can make a different kind, or I can make something else. Like they're all similar, not the same, but they were all like within one narrow scope.
Right.
You know, so it's always interesting to me. It's like, 1987, he started making in the back room. I'm like, why? Like, what made you want to do that? I mean, I'm glad that he did, because clearly now I'm drinking his beer. But at the same time, it's why?
Right.
Because like you said, with a lot of lagers, that's a whole different process of brewing that involves a lot more temperature control and, you know, refrigeration and, you know, things like that. There's a lot more narrow of a range to be able to do that. So are they just creating other stuff then, or was that
right?
I don't know. I have questions. So yes, we're gonna have to delve deep.
We're gonna have to dig into
We're gonna have to. We're gonna put the two guys in beer research team on it. We're gonna be digging into that.
Yes.
So anyway, back to the Pizza Port. Sorry, too much bullshit. I had to hydrate here.
Pizza Port Mongo, and we talked about PBR just a minute ago. Before we get too much back into Pizza Port and Mongo here, I actually just watched a documentary on Fox Nation. They do this whole series on how companies start, and one of them was Pabst, which is PBR. Super interesting. I don't remember a lick about it at this current minute. But they also did one on Anheuser-Busch and how that started and kept going too. So if you subscribe to Fox Nation, amongst the 30,000 streaming things you can subscribe to and watch, a lot of cool documentaries on there on how businesses started and how they went, and two of them happen to be on breweries, Anheuser-Busch and Pabst. So anyways.
That's remarkable. It is remarkable to me sometimes, like when you see just like massive things like Anheuser-Busch, you know what I mean? That like, so where did you start? I mean, because some people start like, okay, well, you know, I invested $2.5 million and I did, you know, whatever. They're already starting big.
Right.
You know, but like you get, you know, something like this, and granted it's, you know, not the same size as Anheuser-Busch. I'm not trying to say that, but, you know, like you literally started just dabbling in the back room.
Yep.
With beer.
And Anheuser-Busch had a lot of troubling times. I remember a little bit about that documentary. So watch it if you subscribe to Fox Nation.
Definitely check it out. So early on, again, as I mentioned, he took advantage of the space in the back room there. The hobby kind of took off a little bit at the urging of friends and fans, which, again, that's another thing that, like, at what point, anytime that you've ever done anything, do you say, okay, my friends are going to like this because they're my friends? I don't know if Brandon's ever run into this. I don't know if you've had much of Brandon's beer, but it's
never
phenomenal.
Tried Brandon's beer.
It is fantastic. He does a great job. He makes good stuff. I haven't had much of the mead that he makes, but any of the other stuff that he's had, like there was a cookies and cream beer that he made. I don't remember if it was a porter or what it was, but it was the best beer that I've ever had in my entire life, hands down. And I don't say that very lightly. Like it's because there's so many that are like, I've had so many different varieties that like, well, what's your favorite? I'm like, I don't know. I like this style, and there's so many that are good like that. That one was like just beyond. And it's, when do you get past that? Well, my friends like it because they're my friends.
Right.
And if you try something that is your friends, whether you like it or not, I mean, you probably like it better. Even, you know what I mean? Like legitimately, maybe in your mind, you're like, you're already conditioning yourself to, I'm going to like this. If you go to a random brewery, you're like, I don't know, we'll see.
Right.
And you taste it and you're like, it tastes like crap. You know what I mean? But like your friends, you at least mentally are already planning to like it. But from this point, you're like urging from family and friends, at what point you're like, all right, I'll believe you. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, who's going to like it outside of your little group?
Right.
You know? But I don't know. Apparently he decided to do it. So Vince and Gina decided to go in the brew pub business, and so Pizza Port started offering beers to patrons in 1992 and quickly gained a reputation in the San Diego's craft brewing scene. So made a name for themselves right away, just getting it out there. But that's again in 1992, you're still at the front edge, kind of that leading edge of that craft beer where it's starting to get out there a little bit more.
Yeah, there's not a ton of competition at that point, but in the same time, in 1992, like you said, you're on the front, the leading edge. You're still bringing something that really isn't out there. So are people going to accept it? Are they going to like it? Or they're not going to like it? Is it like, I think, what the crap is this?
Yeah, and that's the other part. It can't be crap.
Right.
Because there isn't 1,400 other places that people are going to. There's just that. So if you suck, I'm not coming back, and I'm going to tell my friends this is the one place that has that type of beer. Don't go there.
Do not go there, right.
And so I don't know if it's harder or better if there's no competition. Like, I feel like it's almost more challenging because you like that quality has to be there because you have nobody else to like, well, maybe they forgot or there's just enough people.
Sure.
I don't know.
And in the craft brewing industry, too, which we've learned over the past year of doing the show, is how many of them help each other in collaboration, and they all support each other. So if you're out in the leading front before that industry is even in place to help, you're kind of on an island by yourself doing something completely new. So you're kind of live or dying by yourself, you know. So yeah, I think it would be harder back then, right off the cuff in the forefront anyways.
So it's always remarkable to me when we get different businesses. We've done around 30 of these episodes now. I slap my hand. I should have looked up and known exactly which episode we're on, but you know what? It's based on drinking beer, so the quality of data sometimes isn't there. It's fine. But that's one of the things that's remarkable to me that, like businesses that'll start then but still are around, that continue through that are able to fight through all those things, so. But it's, it's a lot of fun to be able to kind of go through all those. But anyway, so back to, Pizza Port here. Focus, Andy. Come on. So following their success at Solano Beach, they've been steadily expanding. Location number 2 opened in 1997 in Carlsbad, and that's where we have our current beer. So I think that became kind of their primary location. 2003 is when they opened spot number 3 in San Clemente. So readily expanding over the course of the years. 2008, a premium bottle shop was added adjacent to the Carlsbad location, which offers hundreds of options from other breweries in the craft beer community. So you talked about the cooperation. Like, yes, I have my brew pub, but I'm also going to sell all sorts of other beers from other places and support my fellow breweries.
Right.
So kind of a fun thing to be able to see that. And then number 4 opened in Ocean Beach in 2010. And then in 2013, the most recent one opened in Bresci Ranch community of Carlsbad. So still Carlsbad, but another section of Carlsbad. And that one introduced a canning line, which allowed Pizza Port to send their beers from home to store shelves all across San Diego County.
The great county of San Diego.
And top 10 liquors in Blaine.
So clearly they've expanded with some distribution quite a bit since San Diego County. So
so far, Pizza Port locations have collectively so far.
This is what happens when you have a beer podcast. Things just come
double
out a
IPA,
differently.
double IPA. It's weighing heavy on my tongue.
It's getting to Andy a little bit over there.
The Pizza Port locations have collectively won over 91 medals and awards from the Great American Beer Festival. So a lot of success with that. They continue to encourage their brewers. So that's the interesting thing is they have their breweries, but I'm sure that they have multiple that are doing different things within their system. It's not just one head brewer like, all right, team, this is what we're making. They encourage a lot of different people to, like, all right, you guys go make this and whatever, let me know, or bring me back something fun, buy me something cute, whatever it may be. So a lot of things like that. They encourage them to create unique and award-winning flavors, and their entire crew works very hard to provide the best guest experience possible, also while having a great time. So it sounds like it'd be a fun place to be able to go. So next time we're in Carlsbad, we're going to have to go check it out. That'll be part of the world tour that we're going.
Tour of beer.
I was going to say North American tour or just even U.S. tour, but really we're going to Oktoberfest, and actually we've already been to Oktoberfest at this point in time, and has your lederhosen recovered at this point in time?
No, it is not.
Mine neither.
But I might have to wear it for a future episode, though. We might have to dress up and wear it for an episode.
Well, we'll definitely have some.
We'll make it a little fun.
Well, you'll have to refer to the clips of us wearing the lederhosen that we're live on location in Munich. So you'll have to check that out. I'm sure that that'll be adjacent to this video somewhere. This way, or if I go like this, maybe it's right there as a clickable.
It could be popping up. It could be there.
It probably.
You never
isn't,
know where
but,
it might be.
I'm just pointing at like the air at this point in time. So they have the 5 locations, multiple awards, all sorts of different things. They don't entirely know what's next for them, but they want to create great beer, make great pizzas, and make new friends. And all of that sounds like fantastic information for me.
It sure does. I like great beer. I like great food. And who doesn't like to make more friends?
Oh, and pizza?
I like pizza.
Oh, my God. I just, you get a good pizza, like, it's hard to beat.
I just ate pizza at this place in Scandia. Don't remember what it's called, but the pizza was fucking awesome.
Did they make their own, or was it like...
Oh, man. Yes, they make their own homemade pizza at this place. Our youngest daughter had senior photos. We took them out. We took the photos in St. Croix.
You took the pictures at the pizza place in Scandia?
No.
Okay.
We took them at the Marine at St. Croix in the park there on the river in the River Valley.
Good choice.
And our awesome photographers, Winsome Photography. If anybody wants photos taken, they fly anywhere in the country and do your photos. They're some of the best photo takers ever. Said, hey, there's this great place just over here in Scandia for pizza. Do you guys want to go out for dinner after photos? We're like, hell yeah, we do. We like pizza. So that's where we had pizza, this pizza place in Scandia. So I don't know what it's called. So if you're ever in Scandia, Minnesota, stop by the pizza, one and only pizza place that's probably in Scandia.
Is it that, like, kind of that nice thin crust, too?
It wasn't too thin, but it wasn't thick crust either.
Okay.
And the toppings were great, and the cheese was fully melted, and there was extra cheese, and I don't know.
And the sauce was good?
Yeah, oh my God.
The sauce I feel like the sauce is really what makes it sometimes.
So
I mean,
good.
you can mess it up with other stuff, but I feel like the sauce is really what adds to it.
It really does. It's the sauce and the crust, because everybody can put cheese and pepperoni on a pizza, but different crusts do taste different in how they're prepared, and sauces 100%. Definitely change the taste of the pizza.
Absolutely. I'm not going to allude to who it is because I do like them. I like the people that own it. I like the business. I like everything about it. But there is a pizza place that I did have some recently that it was like, the toppings were fresh, the cheese was good, melted, like the sauce, everything was good, but it was very clear that they were buying like store-bought crust. And I'm like, this is just, it's so disappointing because like it's so good other than that. And I'm like, it's fine. It's just okay. I don't want to go back here again. But I mean, they're nice people, and it's a good spot, and it's local. It's kind of close, but it's just, it just makes it so tough.
It must have been the store branded crust, great value or something.
It was something like that. Like I don't think it was like a frozen thing, but I think it was like a fresh. Like okay, we'll peel the plastic off of this, and here's the ready-made dough or something like that. So. I don't know. I mean, there's something to be said about that. I watch even the pizza pub here in town or whatever. They have the big giant mixer in the back where they're mixing up the dough, every night and stuff like that. So
I like the pizza pub here in town. They have the buffalo chicken pizza that's really good. I really like that.
I don't know that I've had that. Yeah. That sounds delicious, though. That does sound quite amazing.
Delicious. I can go for some right now, actually.
They're probably still open. Get like a little squeeze bottle of ranch over the top of that.
Yeah.
The drizzle, if you will.
That'll add to the good.
Sounds really good. Well, you were talking about getting into the shirt that trying to compare shirt sizes a little bit. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I got a belt for that. Don't worry about it. So let's hear what else here. Let's go back to some of the Pizza Port here. So not only a bunch of the awards that they've had. Their first, we talked a little bit about kind of like their development of kind of where they started and where they went from. They started in the back room. They kind of developed beyond there. They installed a 7-barrel brewery and served their first handcrafted beer on premise in 1992. And I think we talked about that it was about in the early 90s when they started that, but that was a 7-barrel brew house that they had at that point in time. They became part of the second wave of craft breweries through San Diego County to rise to prominence in the industry. Even before that, the restaurant guest taps featuring local homebrewed beer were hugely influential in the development of the San Diego brewing culture. So it sounds like
interesting.
When you talk about, like the laws being relaxed, it sounds an awful lot like it was like, okay, I come in and it's not like a distributorship, like Minnesota laws. Again, we get into Minnesota laws, which just, like
Gooberment.
I'm going to just throw my headset around my, it's just ridiculous.
Around your neck.
It's so ridiculous. You can't sell, I mean, maybe these changed, I guess, since I did own a bar for a while, and you couldn't get a beer from the brewery. It had to go through a distributor because somebody else had to make the money on it.
Sure. I'm sure there's got to be some tax implication or something on that.
Oh,
too.
I'm sure. And which, to a certain extent, I get the idea. If I'm a brewer, I want to get it to a distributor because they can get it wide. And then I don't have to worry about trying to truck it all over. Because I think there was one that we did. I think it was Hop Butcher for the World, where they were talking about that they had just friends that were volunteers that all right, I'm going to take 6 cases in my minivan and I'm going to drive all around town and just hopefully somebody will buy some of this stuff that they can resell it. And so, there is a place for distributors, but I don't like the fact that 320 in Pine City over here, which we are going to have their owner, maybe new owner, maybe old owner, we're working some details. Stay tuned. Follow our socials, like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. We can't just go there and be like, I want to have your stuff on tap.
Right.
You have to go through a distributor locally. And I think that they've maybe changed some of that a little bit more recently. But at the same time, for a long time, that's the only way you could do it. And so it's just kind of a pain. And so I like the idea that it's so foreign to me that, not just I have a brewery and I want to sell you my stuff. It's more of so I cooked this stuff last month on my stove. Would you like to try it? And if it's good, I mean, don't get me wrong. I use the funny words and stuff, but at the same time, that's kind of how it started and that's kind of how it went. And it sounds like in the San Diego area, guest taps featuring locally homebrewed beer. Homebrewed beer. So you're literally just all right, now I have made this, and I tried kegging one time. It didn't go well. Bottling worked for me, but I couldn't get the kegging to work right. It wouldn't carbonate.
Sure.
So that was kind of a pain for me. But, you do a 5 or 10 gallon thing or, something larger. If you have a little brew house, in your own home or something like that, maybe you could do something like that. And you can roll out a barrel. Not a barrel, but a keg. not the 30-gallon barrel. Come on, settle down.
Well, that's what I was hoping. I was hoping for a 30-gallon barrel coming my way.
Let me tell you,
cool.
That's going to be the next iteration of the Two Guys in Beer. It's going to be actually coming right through there. It's going to be just a little spigot right here. Just, we can sip in between here.
And the ideas are plenty right now.
Oh, my God. It's, like the best ideas come later in the episodes, for sure. So I like the idea. I mean, it's so bizarre to me to think that, like, they have homebrew just on tap at breweries. I mean, it's fantastic. I'd love that, But
I do, too. It's too bad they don't do that now.
Yeah. Exactly.
I wonder if it's even allowed. I wonder.
Oh, probably not, because you got to have a food license and prep, like all that stuff. But
yeah, I suppose it'd be like bake sales and stuff. They're not allowed to sell their stuff at like establishments. Mm-hmm. You can do it at like farmers markets, but you couldn't go to like Walmart and sell your baked goods.
Right.
They just don't allow it. But we need to be advocates and try to change that if it is a law, because if you could have a locally home brewer on like one tap at a local brewery just to try some home brew, or they change it out once a month to a different home brewer.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. How nice would that be?
Yeah.
If you have a place locally they got 10 taps, you know what I mean? And there's a place in Mora here that I don't know if you've been there or not. I'm not even going to name it because I'll name it if I'm talking good, but I'm not going to name it if I'm talking bad. But you can go ahead and say it if you want to. But they advertise, like, we have 20 beers on tap. No, they don't. They have 10 beers on tap twice. That is, technically 20 taps, but you don't have 20 different beers. You have 10 beers on tap.
That's word salad for you.
You can F off in my book. But wouldn't that be great if you have something where you have somebody that has 10 taps, 12 taps, whatever their system is, but they're willing to have 1 or 2 taps at the end that is the rotating home brewer of the area. I don't know that it would work in a smaller. You'd have to get either enough people in a small area that do it, or expand to, like, if you were to be in a more metro area or kind of suburban area that were to have enough people, like, give them an opportunity. In a way, it almost gets to be kind of like all right, we're going to have live music 2 nights a week. Friday nights is going to be this is going to be our Queen cover band. They're going to do all the stuff. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be amazing. But then on Tuesday nights,
the lead singer, me.
We have, Tuesday nights we have, like, Two Guys in Beer, the musical.
Oh.
It's all coming together.
Now we're talking.
But we have to develop our craft at that point in time. Our craft singing, not the craft beer. But you know what I'm saying? You have, like, the band that's developing, you know what I mean? Like, on a night that's a little slower. But you could have, like, a tap where you have, like, the local home brewer. They're like, I made some stuff, and it's, I don't know how you get beyond like the food licensing, with the standards or whatever. But like, if you could have just this one is made by, Brandon up the road that made this, East Coast IPA that features these hops, Cascade and Chinook and, whatever, and a little bit of sweetness or something.
Right. That would be cool as hell.
That would be amazing.
Who do we talk to about this stuff? We need to get more involved in
Let's I don't know. I have ideas in my mind, but I feel like I should just let it go right now.
Like the musical portion. Trust me, you don't want Andy and I singing you a musical.
That was probably a better idea than other ideas that I've had, but it's fine.
It sounds good, though.
I
do like to sing. I just can't.
The thing is with the Two Guys in Beer musical, though, for all of those that are clamoring for tickets already, they'll show up in the link below that'll be there. What you don't know is it's a minimum. You have to have a driver to be able to get you there, or stay locally, because it's a minimum 0.15 before we actually take the stage.
Before we let you in.
Before we start the show.
Yeah.
So
these would be questions for Brandon. Maybe he knows a little bit, or any other brewery we have on with their brewers or owners, what it takes,
to have a musical.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, you got me with one earlier, so I had
some singing.
So, yeah. Anyway, so Mongo Double India Pale Ale from Pizza Port.
Pizza Port.
Really good stuff. So Pizza Port as a whole. 2006 was named one of the top 50 places to have a beer in America, which I think that probably has to do with not only the quality of the beer, but also the quality of the pizza. Because it's got to be, a whole experience altogether. This was by beeradvocate.com, which sounds like a good place for me. They've won over 100 Great American Beer Festival medals. So I think they had said before on their website 91, but their Wikipedia has over 100. So,
well, Wikipedia is your trusted source for information.
Cite my sources.
You can't edit it or anything.
Exactly.
Once it's on there, it's in stone.
Several prizes at the World Beer Cup, including 5 gold medals. In 2010, the family of breweries won 6 awards for its beers at the World Beer Cup, and in 2012, 5 more.
Oh,
so
cool.
They have, 5, 11, and 16 different medals that they've won over the last handful of years.
That's pretty cool.
09, 10, and 11, Carlsbad was named the Large Brew Pub of the Year by the Great American Beer Festival as well. So
nice.
Lots of really cool things that they got going on with that. So, yeah, that's our story of Pizza Port.
That's pretty cool.
Carlsbad, California. So if you're in the California area, look them up, check it out. Let them know that you heard it here on Two Guys and Beer podcast. And otherwise, just like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends, and tell anybody you can. Anybody you're in. Apparently, you were saying that somebody recognized me from the podcast.
Yes, yep. Somebody recognized him from the podcast.
I would have crisp high five. Even better if you would have had a beer for me. Would have been even.
That's a great way to greet one of us.
If you see one of us and you bring us a beer, you're our new art. You could be on the show.
Unfortunately, he didn't ask him for an autograph. I did ask him, well, did you go up to him and ask him for an autograph? He's like, well, no. I'm like, well, why not?
It's so weird. I have my 8x10s with me, too.
Right, at least.
Yeah, I just, I carry them everywhere. Amanda's like, why do you carry them all the time?
And you're a Sharpie.
Well, yeah, exactly. You got to be prepared. You never really know when somebody's going to come up to you randomly and ask for that, so.
Especially on a show like this.
Exactly. Well, 100%. Yeah, we're worldwide, prestige worldwide. Yeah. So that's the Pizza Port story. But yeah, it's a cool place. But yeah, what else you got? We want to talk a little football.
I think we should talk a little football. I mean, football just started a couple weeks ago. We should probably get into that a little bit. Nothing too specific, but I just kind of want to bring up one name. And when I say this name,
oh, here we go.
I want to get your reaction of this name. And before I say the name, I'm going to say this person was probably an elite level.
Elite.
At their position for 3-4 years.
Now, when we're talking elite, are we talking PJ Fleck elite or are we talking actual elite?
We don't like to talk about PJ Fleck elite. We're talking elite.
Legit elite. Okay, elite.
NFL elite.
There we go.
You would want him on your starting fantasy football team, whether you're a super flex league or not. He would be your starting.
That would be somebody you'd have there. Okay.
And he would be the difference maker.
Gotcha.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Are you just looking for instant reaction, or what do we?
Let's go a little bit instant reaction.
Okay.
And I kind of want to talk about before. I'm probably going to give it away right now, but elite level, fall from grace. Elite level, fall from grace. Deshaun Watson.
I was just going to say, it just happened to, I just heard some news recently.
Yeah.
It's so weird. There's a pattern. Where did this come from?
Telekinesis. So here you got an elite level NFL quarterback playing football at an elite level down in Houston. Nobody even knows what's going on. He's playing so well. Likes a little rub and tug at the massages, the massage parlors. Gets in trouble.
I'm going to qualify you'd said nobody really knows what's going on. I'm going to say nobody cares what's going on.
Sure.
Yet.
Sure.
Because I'd be willing to bet that there are people that know because carry on.
So played at such an elite level at Houston. Why? I don't know. Maybe he's assistant quarterback.
Led the league in passing one year, I believe.
I think so. Yeah. Definitely a difference maker in the NFL on your fantasy team.
Could move the ball with his feet.
He moves other things too with his feet, or other things. a little rub and tug, likes the masseuses, doesn't like the masseuses, gets mad if they're not very good at finishing. Yeah, I don't know. Gets suspended.
You should get tips from Robert Kraft.
Robert Kraft might help him out where to go, but
it's true.
Goes
it's more
to
Miami
Cleveland.
based.
Goes to Cleveland. Gets paid what, $230 million over what, 5-6 years? I don't know his
insane,
contract.
even though he was suspended for a year.
And he's a garbage. What happened? You're at this level. Now you're at this level. How does that happen?
He can still run the ball a little bit, but I was watching a game recently that like he kept scrambling and just kept getting smoked by guys. And they showed like a close up and he had this just like, I got to do everything myself kind of look on his face. And I'm like, well, if you had the ability to pass, if you had the ability to go through progressions, if you had the ability to do something, or if you had people that trusted you, all of these things would be a lot easier for you. Just, I'm telling you, like this isn't rocket surgery.
No, but what happened? How can you play at such a level and go to such a level, and in the interim when you're hurt, 38-year-old Joe Flacco all of a sudden turns the Browns into playoff contenders.
Which I was never that big of a Joe Flacco fan, but like that year, let me tell you, I could not root for that guy anymore.
Like Watson can't even play like Joe Flacco. Like Joe Flacco comes off the bench the last 4 or 5 weeks last year, puts Cleveland in the playoffs. I mean, he laid an egg in the playoffs, but Cleveland looked like a playoff contending Super Bowl contender type team.
How good is Joe Flacco to win Comeback Player of the Year over Damar Hamlin, who literally died on the field?
Okay. Well, Damar Hamlin doesn't even play football. So there's that. So you can die on the field all you want, but if you don't even play all year, it's pretty tough to win Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah, right. But it was kind of funny. Anyway, so we're talking about Deshaun Watson. So I just thought it was kind of funny.
So anyways, the stage is yours.
Well, no,
Deshaun Watson. Yeah, so how does that happen? How do you go from elite level to you're probably ranked 29th in the NFL?
It's and it's happened a handful of times, ironically, with like one that comes to mind, and for very, very, very different reasons, was another Texans quarterback, Matt Schaub, who was not really that great and not really somebody that you're looking towards to be an elite level quarterback. But then, with Andre Johnson and some of the receivers they had a run of 4 years-ish, 3-4 years, where he was like, you want to talk about fantasy buku bucks. That guy was just money. And then all of a sudden 1 year it was like gone.
Terrible.
And he just could not find the broadside, and he was out of the NFL within like a year after that. I'm not saying this would happen, and maybe it's the Texans curse or something like that. Just CJ Stroud should watch himself. But I don't know, you see it more with running backs, really, because of they just lose that little bit of speed, that little bit of quickness, but you don't see it as much with quarterbacks,
right,
unless they're not that great of... How do I put? I don't want to say not that great of a quarterback to begin with, but they don't go through their progressions. They don't go, you know what I mean? They're not reading defense. You see guys that like had success long term. I know that I'm talking about Hall of Fame type players or whatever, but like a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning, or I would argue, already even like a Patrick Mahomes. When he comes to the line, they already know what the defense is doing and what they're trying to do.
Sure.
You hear the stories, and whether they're true or not, that Peyton Manning would get to the line, and especially in preseason, he's like, you're supposed to be 2 feet that way to like a linebacker or something like that, because he knows what they're doing and if he's coming or not, and, just the way they're set. They just know that knowledge ahead of time. But then there are people like a Deshaun Watson or like a Johnny Manziel, if you will, that have that, like, they have that next level of ability. They're like, I love Johnny Manziel for like a hot minute. I would really wanted the Vikings to pick him up. And then immediately I was like, that was a terrible idea. But you got guys like that just, they always have been able to out-athleticize. I'm not sure if that's a word, but that's what I'm using, and you know what I'm talking about, so it's fine. They can out-athleticize the competition. They can just overdo it. And you see it in college all the time, and teams get enamored with some of those players.
Sure.
I would argue to a certain extent Jalen Hurts is kind of in that area. I think he's a little bit better quarterback, but at the same time he's kind of in that area where he's always been able to be just a little bit more athletic than everybody out there, and now it's starting to kind of catch up to him.
Don't be bashing on my starting quarterback on my fantasy football team.
Hey,
he's only committed more turnovers than any quarterback in NFL the last 2 years. But you don't need to bash on him, okay?
Hey, we're in different leagues. It's fine. I'm not attacking you. It's fine.
I've lost a few points because of him, and maybe a couple first round playoff exits because of his injuries. But hey.
But that's you see what I'm saying. You get a guy that's like that. If you want to call it, you can call it a system quarterback. Technically, most every quarterback's a system quarterback. There's very, very, very few quarterbacks that would excel and be elite in any system. And we're talking about like a Patrick Mahomes, a Tom Brady to a certain extent, a Peyton Manning. You
Joe
have an
Montana
idea.
did that.
They're going to make exceptions. They're going to make stuff work. But there's going to be quarterbacks that are going to be very, very good within the scope of what they're doing. Joe Flacco did that for many years.
Russell Wilson did that.
Russell Wilson.
Seattle.
Matt Ryan did that for many years. There's you can go down the line. Arguably you could even say Brock Purdy right now. You tailor it to what they're doing, and yes, they're a system quarterback, but it works. So why wouldn't you keep doing that?
Right.
There aren't that many guys out there ever that would you put them on any team. And arguably, if you were to put Tom Brady or a Patrick Mahomes on the Carolina Panthers or the Miami Dolphins of old, you know what I mean? Like, depending on the team you put them on, New York Jets. Hey, there's certain places where they might just not succeed just because that system doesn't work for them. And sometimes the system just works to that next elite level. And sometimes it's not even necessarily the system. It's just the offensive coordinator and or head coach that realizes this is what I got. I'm going to put the tools in his hand. I'm going to let him just do it.
Sure.
I'm going to maximize. Some coaches are just not as good at maximizing what they have in front of them. They have an idea of their mind of what they want it to do. And I think that Stefanski for Cleveland is a solid head coach and a good coach overall. I think that this is more of a matter of, I don't think Deshaun Watson is the study the defense and a scholar of the game as much as so many of those other elite level quarterbacks. So I guess it goes back to that kind of, he's always just been more athletic. And you can see that even with the way he's played. He's not able to throw his way out a lot of things.
Did he lose his athleticism in his 11-game suspension or whatever it was?
But that's the thing. You see, we watch him now. He's just running the ball. He's looking at his first read, and then he's taking off.
He's got a good running back. He's got a good tight end and some solid receivers out there. So
he's got Amari Cooper. And there's Njoku. There's some talent out there, but I don't know. That's my opinion. I guess that's what I would say is I don't know that he was necessarily as good because even when he was with the Texans, really good offense overall. They had elite receivers. I don't know if it was Hopkins that he had. DeAndre Hopkins was still there.
Hopkins, yeah.
So you got one of the best receivers in the NFL. You had solid running backs.
Arian Foster.
I think it was kind of right around that time. So you got some elite level talent that's around you. You just here's your hot read. I guess that's one of those things that you see somebody that succeeds a lot, but if you can still be. One of the hardest things to do for really anybody, especially sports fans and especially Homer sports fans, is to look at somebody that has success and still see, well, they're doing great, but they're locked on their first read, and that's it.
Sure.
And if that's not there, they just scramble and they gain 10 yards. Now, that's a positive play. I'm not knocking that, and that's a good thing. But you get a team like the Texans that have all that talent, likely your first read going to be there. And if it's not, and if you gain 10 yards, that's going to work 60% of the time.
Sure.
And if you can score 35 points a game, you're going to win a lot of ball games. And I think that he's now starting to come back to earth where Amari Cooper is not DeAndre Hopkins. And really, the passes that I've seen, he's not exactly dropping it in the bucket as he used to.
They're a little rough around the edges for sure.
So I'm not going to say that he lost the talent over the course of the year's suspension and the time that he had off. But at the same time, when you're away from it for that long, it can't benefit you. And I guess more of a large, grandiose type of question is, in addition to him, can you think of a player that has been off, not for injury, but for contract thing or suspension or something like that, that has really come back and been at an elite level? And I'm talking about guys like a Le'Veon Bell that stood out. He's like, no, I'm not going to play this year. Yep. And then he came back and he was marginal at best.
Was he even in the league anymore? I don't even know.
And then why can't I think of his name? The wide receiver that was also with the Steelers around that same time.
Antonio Brown?
Yeah, sat out and then came back and then just basically, lost his shit with the Buccaneers and walked off the field.
He went nutso.
And I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I mean, yes, injury. If you blow out your knee in the beginning of spring training, you blow out your knee during practice, during training camp, you're going to be gone for the year. But you're around the team. You're still at practice. You're still involved in the meetings. You're still doing all those things. But can you think of anybody? You even go back to, this is going in the Wayback Machine. What was his name? I think his name is Mike Williams for USC and Maurice Clarett from Ohio State, that tried to come out and tried to sue the league to be able to come into the league after 1 year in college. And they thought they were going to get in, and the NFL said, oh, nay, you're out. But then the NCAA was, nope, you signed with an agent, so you can't come back. Which, side note, I think that was bullshit. If you're going to try to go and then they change their mind and you can't go back,
you should be able to finish out your eligibility.
Let him come back for the year. I mean, come on. I think that was really dumb. But anyway, even those guys, neither one of them had exactly a Hall of Fame type career. And Maurice Clarett was on, you want to talk about the path to stardom, right to the top. Neither one of them really did anything. Can you think? I guess I can't think of anybody that takes a year off that's in a way away from the team that has had success.
No, not off the top of my head. I can't think. I mean, you brought up injuries. The only one I could say that really came back from a major injury and produced was, Adrian Peterson, of course. He won the MVP. But outside of that, and he really didn't even have a year off. He came back ready to go the next 7 months later.
Which was unreal. He's out running hills.
But, man, no, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head right now that took a year off and came back and was back to an elite level. But who takes a year off, though?
Well, and that's
anybody even taking a year off on any sport? I can't even think of that.
Yeah, and I guess that gets back into kind of that more grandiose question of like a Le'Veon Bell or an Antonio Brown that they held out for the year because they wanted more money on their contract and stuff like that. That's the type of thing that you end up with, that you're just not the same player. And when you see different players, there's, I think, a handful of players that held out at the beginning of the season, even this year. There's a couple of them that signed right before week 1, but there's a handful of them that were even holding out going into week 1.
Right.
And I guess my question is, when is that worked out for anybody? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't hold out and try to get your money, because the money's out there.
Yeah, get paid.
Get all the money that you can. I'm not, when I was younger, I was definitely you don't need that much money. You just don't. I'm well, nobody needs. Does anybody need $60 million a year? I mean,
not
I do.
Really.
But it just,
I'll take it.
Yeah, 100%.
If it's available, go get it.
Yeah, but that's your job, is to get all the money you can. Now, you have to understand that money may not be there, or you also have to understand that if you get all that money, there's not enough money to go around to anybody else.
Right.
There are certain players that have made it work, but generally speaking, that's not that recipe. If you take up that much of a salary cap or whatever you say, there's not enough money to go around to anybody else. And you just have to accept that your team's just not going to. You're going to be lacking in certain things. I've seen it many years with Aaron Rodgers, especially. That like, oh, I want all of the money. I'm like, well, that's great, but don't come and bitch to me about how bad your wide receivers are next week, because guess what? Everybody dropped the ball.
Has anybody taken all the money and won?
I think probably one of the few that I would probably think of would be like a Patrick Mahomes.
That's the only one. That's that came about to my the only
one. Because even Tom Brady over the years didn't take the most money. Even when he went to Tampa Bay, he took some of the money. He took probably a larger chunk, but he didn't take all of the money that he probably could have. Patrick Mahomes is probably the only one that I can think of that's like, I'm signing a deal that's worth about $50 million a year or something absurd. I'm taking up a quarter of the salary cap, and somehow, some way, every year, Kansas City is always good. I think probably some of that has to do with the fact that, like, hey, would you like to win a Super Bowl?
Right.
Because
come here,
this guy's going to get it done. We got a terrible offense. Offensive line is garbage. The wide receiver core is just marginal.
But
you know what? We're going to limp our way to the AFC Championship game just showing up because we got this guy under center.
But who is that guy under center for one?
Well, so, the Patrick Mahomes last year. That's what I'm saying. That's about the only one that I can think of.
Center?
Like that type
who's
of guy.
snapping him the ball?
It could have been me.
Right. That's what I'm saying with his team. Like, yeah, you can come here and win a Super Bowl, but the people that go there, you don't know their names. You have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
But they still get it done.
Yeah.
What do they want? 2 Super Bowls in a row, going for 3 this year, possibly if they can get there. And their offense looks a little better already this year than last year, based on what we've seen this year so far. I mean,
and they didn't really even dial in Kelsey at all.
No, not yet.
Just
so
kind of,
and that'll come as the rest of the season comes.
Absolutely.
You're not going to forget about Travis Kelsey.
No. And those two got such a connection that I think that right now, I mean, we're early-ish season that. If you're Mahomes, you're dialing in everybody else. If you can get everybody else on track by the time you get to like a crunch time, you know that Kelsey's going to be there. You know he's going to be in the right position. You know that he's going to be there. But again, that comes back to being a scholar of the game, which somebody else that we originally started talking about is nowhere close. And I guess that's my opinion about that guy.
Well, you know who else apparently is a scholar of the game? Taylor Swift.
Well,
the Swiftie is apparently drawing up plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. Did you read those articles?
I didn't read those articles, but you know what? At some point in time, like they have enough success. Like,
oh my goodness,
Patrick Mahomes would be the one guy that I'd be like, let's see what happens if we can, as long as we don't get like an illegal shift or like like something like that, lined up wrong at the line or something. Let's do it. Why not? They're doing plays where they got guys running in circles. They don't know who they're snapping the ball to. Like, clearly they're just kind of making things up as they go.
And maybe that's why they're successful.
That's one of the things I've always liked about Andy Reid.
Backyard football by the Kansas City Chiefs.
That Andy Reid was the 1974 punt pass kick champion or something. Have you ever seen that video?
No, but I think I heard something about it.
God, if you've never seen it, I honestly don't remember what year it was, but it was on like ABC or something like that. They did it like halftime of a game, and it was just Google Andy Reid punt pass kick, and you see like 12-year-old offensive tackle. He's like 3 times bigger than everybody else out there. It was absolutely absurd. Just crazy. So watch out for that. Try to be able to check that one out. So
yeah, I'll have to take a look at that.
So what else you got? Now we kind of covered football. We covered the Pizza Port. This is some good stuff though. Like the double India Pale Ale Mongo.
Yeah, it's not too bad. The Pizza Port Mongo there, the robust name. I don't have too much else. We didn't really give this a rating. On our lawnmower scale and our campfire scale, I definitely wouldn't drink this on my lawnmower scale. It's a little too hoppy for me for the lawnmower scale of having a couple there, but it's definitely a high on the campfire scale when you're sitting there relaxing, eating your s'more. You drink a few of these, 2 to 3 of these, for sure. It is light and crisp, so you could drink it for the lawnmower, but It's still a bit too hoppy and a little bit too much something there,
Right.
or it's just not going to sit right in there. So
I think I using my scale, my adjusted scale, I guess, but the per hour mowing, just based on whatever your lawn may be, respectively, I think I'd probably be maybe 1 per hour.
sure.
And I don't even know that I would necessarily finish, within that hour, but right around there is good. It's a good sipper, but at the same time, you're not like, it's hot, I'm having a couple extra hits on this one. And I'm probably not having one after I'm done. It's more so like you said, when we get around the campfire, we're done, the lawn's all manicured, somebody's about to bring me, like a couple of Johnsonville brats, or not even Johnsonville. We're not going to say
pizza.
Johnson.
You're going to fucking fire cook some pizza on that bitch.
Oh, GD, right we are. I'm not even going to say Johnsonville brats because we're not going to do that. You're going to go to, this is going to be a deep cut there. So if you're in northern Minnesota, follow along with me here. We're going to Mattawa, which is a town about 14 people, about that big. And you go to TJ's Country Store. They got fresh brats that they make right there. Pick dang near anything in that cage. Just grab that stuff, make that. That's going to be your brat for the night, and a little Mongo diaper.
Mongo.
There we go.
Perfect.
That's when we're talking about things. Yeah, lawnmower probably 1. Probably not even 1 right after. Probably something a little lighter. But around the campfire with a brat or a burger.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is going to get her done.
I'm getting hungry already.
Absolutely. 100%. So what else you got? Anything else for us today?
Well, I don't have anything. What do you got going on?
That's about all I got.
All right.
That's the end of my story, I think,
Perfect.
as far as I can tell. But this is our tale of Pizza Port Brewing out of Carlsbad, California. Is very tasty and very good, and I highly recommend going to get it. I found it in Blaine at Top 10 Liquors. I'm sure there's multiple places that have it. You can kind of see the can here on the video, but I definitely would recommend it. But otherwise, until next time, everybody.
Sure. Cheers.
Cheers.